Hey everybody, welcome back to the Mega Maker Show. It's been a few weeks. The last couple of Saturdays we weren't able to make it because of family stuff, but family stuff is starting to calm down a little bit. So we're back and we've got a good one for you tonight. Tonight is all about the business of making. I want this to be a general conversation, a general topic about business, not necessarily just business of making, but business itself. So if you have an idea that you want to move forward with, we're going to talk a little bit about that tonight, and we've got a couple of really great cats in the house tonight for exactly this kind of conversation. Many of you know Joel Crawford from Missing Digit Workshop and the maker of the almighty Spartan knife block. And he's with us tonight, and Scott Caruso is with us tonight. Now, Scott's new, and a lot of you guys, I'm sure, don't know Scott, but Scott has been a very successful entrepreneur his whole life. He's done a lot of really fun things, and one of his latest projects was Pure Color Products, which is a really environmentally friendly stain for woodworkers like ourselves. And Scott and I have kind of developed a relationship here over the past 6 months to a year, and he's a really good guy and just full of really cool information. So we're super excited to have him on tonight. As always, when we start one of these shows, we're going to go through a little brief introduction. Joel, why don't you take a little minute to kind of introduce yourself and tell the folks what you're about tonight?
Sure. I'm glad to be here, Izzy, again. It's a good opportunity to share ideas and talk among the community of makers. And it's a fun way not only for me to answer questions where I might have expertise, but also to get to think a little outside the box when somebody asks a question. So before I do anything, I'd like to ask the audience to participate as much as possible tonight because it'll help along with the conversations. Me, myself, I'm a maker, and I do it for full-time business. I was a tech guy, and before that I was a restaurant guy. And now I make things out of wood, and right now it's the holiday season, so I make a lot of things out of wood, and so that's my expertise is learning how to market and sell and create products that people enjoy.
Very cool. Thank you, Joel, for being on tonight. It's always fun to have you here. Great conversation.
My pleasure.
Great conversationalist, lots of good information. Okay, Scott, I'm going to put you on the chopping block here. Let's give us a little bit of a descriptive background of your history, rather, and so people kind of get an idea about where you're coming from and where your expertise lie.
Cool. Well, thanks, Izzy. First, like Joel said, I really appreciate the opportunity to be here. For me, I'm inspired by entrepreneurs, so the opportunity to speak with fellow entrepreneurs, people that want to be in business either for themselves or go start up a business, that's something that's driven me my entire career. So unlike you guys, or unlike you, Izzy, or even Joel, I don't make, I'm not a maker per se, but I certainly appreciate people that are makers and want to make their own way. So I've spent... I started out as a geek, going way back when in the 70s. I actually I programmed on paper tape, for those of you who would have any clue about that. I had an internet address back in 1985, and so I saw the wave of the internet coming, and as part of that, I ended up joining companies that allowed me to really, live the life of an entrepreneur. I worked at a Fortune 500 company called Sun Microsystems, but I joined back in the 80s. The company wasn't even 5 years old yet. I spent time, I founded a company, I co-founded a company. It was an ISP in the 90s, so I lived the dot-com story. I'm looking forward to sharing a little bit about that. And then I also spent a decade as a professional investor, as both an angel and as a venture capitalist. So I invested in startups, mostly high tech, but some clean tech. And then I also, the last 5 years, as Izzy mentioned, I was a founder and led the Pure Color endeavor, build a business around stain. It was also a clean tech company. And today I spend my time mentoring and advising, being a business advisor and living the life of an entrepreneur.
Very cool. You said you had a email address when back in '85.
Yeah.
So
Yep.
you were one of the 3 people, huh? So,
It was there were less than 5,000 people, and I can tell you because at the time when you got connected to it was the ARPANET. You actually registered in a text file basically, and I went in there to edit that file and put my name and address in it. And it wasn't even addressed like you have today, but anyway, yeah, it was less than 5,000 people.
I remember the first time I ever saw the internet was when my sister was in college at Michigan Tech, and she brought me into the computer room or whatever there, and I went in, and she was talking about this thing called I don't think she referred to it as the internet yet, but it was, she said it was just this, DOS screen, and you'd type in this little bit of code or whatever it was, and then you'd a little subject line after it, and then whoever could respond or pop up after it. So she said, well, the best way to get people to respond is to type the word sex in. So she did, and it was like immediately she had like 15 replies. It was funny. It was just this very confusing, unimpressive, dark screen with a bunch of yellow lettering across it. It's like, yeah, this isn't going to go anywhere. But yeah, here we are 25 years later, and wow, it's just absolutely crazy. So,
well, that's for me in '85. It was so obvious that this was going to disrupt the way people communicate, and that's a theme that I've lived throughout my entire kind of entrepreneur career. Is a witness to and observing and participating in disruption, and that's. Well,
let's talk about that a little bit, because as makers, and I'm a firm believer that the future of our country's industrial, well, not industrial, but the future of our country's business is makers, is small companies like what Joel's doing. It's the guys out there that are going to put together these companies. I'm not saying that Pure Color is small, but it's companies like that are going to be the foundation of our economy outside of tech stuff. And if you don't make anything, and the Romans learned this the hard way, if you don't make anything, eventually you fall. So I think that the future of our country is going to be a lot of these small micro businesses throughout the nation, all these makers that are doing whatever they're doing, or small businesses that are doing whatever they happen to be doing. And I like the idea of disruptive technology or disruptive business in and of itself. If you have something that that kind of goes against the popular trend, and it's something new, it's something fresh, it's something cool, then I'm searching for the definition here, but in terms, you're being disruptive, or you're disruptive of the flow of things. And I love to see, I buy tools like I buy groceries. If I can buy it at the farmer's market, I'm going to the farmer's market to buy it, and I do the same thing with tools. If I can buy a tool that's made here in the States, that's made by American hands, you bet your sweet bottom that's where I'm going to get it. And I think that's important that we kind of strive for that. So let's talk, if we can, let's talk a little bit about that. And could you define disruptive for us in terms of what's something that we would understand as, that would make sense to us as makers?
Well, it's interesting when you were just articulating the, kind of the vision of where you see small business going and the importance of it. To me, what I immediately mapped it, if you will, against other trends. So if you go look at like local farming, the grow local, the buy local, that whole trend has really come about because you enable people to, build their own business. And then there's all these innovative, disruptive channels for marketing your product and making it accessible to people. So instead of it just being in your neighborhood at your farmer's market, all of a sudden you could have a product or a technology or even even a business idea, but you can market it on channels like YouTube, like, the social channels like you do. You have Amazon for distribution. It's a phenomenal way. You have ways to communicate like we are right now with people outside of your local, backyard or your local town. And all of that in itself is disruptive, right? All of a sudden, Izzy can build a brand and a tool that is meaningful to people all across the country, even the world. And that to me is something you couldn't have done that 10 years ago, Izzy. I mean, you just wouldn't have. mean, you could have tried. You would have struggled to be successful. You might have been able to, build an eBay store or something. But today, the ability to market yourself and the ability to share your maker products, your value, your customization, your uniqueness, your you is, I think, completely disruptive. I think that's one of the fun things about building a business today.
I like the eBay analogy because that's really where I caught my break in the furniture world. I was one of the early people on eBay, and back then you could sell furniture at a decent price. You didn't have all this other stuff in, and I was building these custom chairs and selling them on eBay as a side gig. And I actually had somebody in New York catch wind of them and ask me, "Hey, can you build cabinets?" And I said, "Heck yeah, I can build cabinets. I can build anything." Yeah. And I ended up. It wasn't a year later. I was living in New York, building Adirondack style rustic furniture. So I mean, that's really where I caught my break. And now it's so vast. I mean, you've got YouTube, you've got Etsy, you've got Pinterest, you've got custom made. If you're a furniture maker, go check out Custom Made. If you're a furniture maker and want to make a living at it, go check it out. It's good. It's a good place. So so there's lots of stuff like that. Now I want to reach out to the audience again and remember, hey, if you guys have any questions about this, feel free to jump in at any time. And I would like to kind of ask the audience a question and kind of get some feedback from you guys as well. When you think about what you're doing, is there something that you're doing that you think would make a good business? Is there a reason that you're not doing it? Is it fear? Is it money? What kind of things would be holding you back from jumping headlong into trying to start a side business, maybe a weekend business, or even going full time? So I would like to kind of touch on some of those questions today. Now, Joel, let's move things over here to you for a second. You did something really cool, and in and of itself, it's kind of disruptive, or was for your life and in your situation anyway. Not that it's disruptive too much, but
no, it made a little bit of wave,
right?
So actually, I wanted to comment on that because I think, especially what Scott was saying about, you now have all these options where there weren't options before. And you get all these things and you can make all these little niche things and where your audience may have been your local area within 50 miles before, you now have the world. The problem is you now have the world, which means there are other guys just like you selling that thing. So, and thank you for bringing up the Spartan knife block, because that's a perfect example. It was a opportunity to make a design that caught the attention of people to a medium like wood, which is an old technology, and it revitalized some things that people had interest in, like the storage of knives. If you wrote a 40-page book in the proper storing of knives, you would have maybe your mother read it, and that's about it. Mm-hmm. But if you make something like a little guy with a shield and he's hoisting up a spear, and that's where you keep your knives on your table, it's an instant conversation starter. And people just loved it. They got it. They understood it. It took only a look to see that. And but then again, it was also lightning in a bottle. I've never been able to recreate that. That kind of
I still call you the pet rock guy of furniture making. So,
well, I appreciate you saying furniture, because it's more like the guy in the shop that makes those cute little things that you keep on your desk or whatever. Well, because that we've made a whole business of cute little things that you keep on your counter or things like that.
Don't be too appreciative. If you saw some of the stuff I call furniture, you might not feel so good about it. So, but one of the things that I guess Custom Chris we had asked a question about what's stopping people, and it's no local. He said no local market. Well, Chris, the local market is a lot bigger than it used to be. The local market is now, the world is at your fingertips. After that, it becomes pricing stuff. How do you price things? And Phil Finsky, I listened to a podcast with Phil Finsky on it, He had a really good example. He makes these wine boxes. They're just boxes with a sliding top. You put wine in as for gifts. And they were talking about how to price that. And he said, well, it's simple. I kind of put a price on that I feel is fair. And if I sell a bunch of them, I raise the price, because then I'm not charging enough because I'm selling too many. If I don't sell enough, then I'll lower the price a little bit.
Do you know the best time to buy your Christmas gifts?
January.
June. Yeah. No, June.
June.
Yeah, because they know the market's going to shift. And anybody that sells online or even local retail, you're going to look at demand. And it doesn't matter what you're making. You're going to figure out the demand for your product. And if you have a widget or if you just have a really nice pen that you do or a bunch of pens, people start raising their prices come gift giving season. Especially for the small crafts like woodworking and steel and jewelry, things like that. Because we've covered almost all the facets for those kind of things, which is, marketing and pricing and where do you sell your things.
Right.
There's a whole laundry list of things to go over within each category. But pricing is always confusing too, because you're like, what should I price it for? And my thought is always price it low to begin with, and then build it and see what people say and get the responses back. So yeah, I agree with Phil on that.
The other side of it is, guys, too, unlike Joel, not all of us are going to have that blast of business from something that we've done or that we enjoy building. The other option there is if you just say, I want to be in business for myself, but the chair I'm making doesn't sell really well, or the widget that I'm making isn't selling really well. Well, nothing says that you have to keep making that particular widget or that particular chair. If you want to be in business for yourself, or you want to just make a little extra money, but one thing that you're doing isn't really cutting it, quit doing that and find something else. When you're in business for yourself, you're always trying to find the next successful thing. And some things are just not successful. And I know guys that are super stubborn and will only make a certain chair. That's what they love doing. Well, that may be what you love doing, but it's not going to get that business off the ground. So find a different design. Is that coming? Now, Scott, you've been all across the board. Now you've done all kinds of different adventures and entrepreneurships. How do you decide what's your formula for a successful entrepreneur venture, or if you're going to do some capital investment? What's your formula? What do you say? What do you look at? What are the nuts and bolts of that formula that you use?
Well, that's a kind of a loaded question.
Yes.
because first off, it depends, right? It's very, very dependent on kind of the stage you're investing and the style of investment, or the kind of product, or the kind of service, or the kind of company. But as a general rule, I think there are four things that you really look at. You look at the product or the technology. How different is it in the market? How unique is it? You look at the financials, meaning how much does it cost to make? How much could you sell it for? The kind of margins. How much does it cost to actually market it? And you'll look at the market itself. How big is the market? And so the maker market, it's enormous, really. How many people want a screwdriver? How many people wanted a knife holder? The market's there. People want it. And then the last thing, the kind of the biggest criteria at the end of the day, if you're looking at the opportunity for a business to be successful, go look at the inspiration for the company, go look at the leader of the company, go look at the founder, go look at the owner, and look at the way he or she builds the business and how they think about the business. Are they committed? Are they persistent? Because you're going to hear no. You're going to hear, are we allowed to cuss?
Yeah, mildly.
Okay, so you're going to hear no a frickin' lot.
Right.
And you're going to be hit with a lot of things that are, disappointments or challenges. And and having the persistence and willingness to overcome that, that's what really makes a successful entrepreneur.
Mhm.
And I'm going to switch real quick, and I want to go back to what you and Joel were. My view in kind of the professional world of building businesses, if you will, what you're describing is this balance between product and market, and it's the identifying that product market fit, and that's it's not magic. Sometimes you get really lucky, like with the Spartan knife thing. At the end of the day, it was really fortunate. It struck a chord emotionally with people. They got it. It was visceral. It took off because people liked it instantly. And if you can find that right out the box, wonderful. Otherwise, you typically are iterating, and you're constantly iterating. Either you're tweaking the product for the market, or you're tweaking your market for the product that you've developed. And sometimes it's the way you pitch it or who you're selling it to. Sometimes it's you actually change the product to fit into the market based on what people are telling you as feedback. And so your point is about taking, you develop something, you put it out there. It doesn't have to be a home run right away. Tweak it, tune it, take some feedback. What would have ask people, what would you have done? What would have made you want to buy that, or what was the best feature, and use that as feedback to highlight.
Yeah, and I think that's another thing, is to remember that it's okay to screw up. It's okay to not have a home run. It's okay to ask for help, and ask for advice. And you can, Scott will tell you, bless his heart, I call him all the time talking about ideas or what I think the next step is. And Scott's been really good about mentoring me in not necessarily exactly what step to take, but the thought process and the directions, and so it's okay to be wrong, And
Hey, Scott, I'm going to need your number.
I'm not afraid to admit when I screw up, and I'll do it publicly. I don't care. I've fallen on my face 100 times. I just get back up and keep trying, and that's part of being successful is just not stopping. It's that ever forward momentum. I really think, because I don't have a lot of great ideas. I just keep trying new things. I'm always willing to try the next new thing. And I think that's probably why sometimes it gets perceived that I have all these great ideas, but I really don't. It's just that I'm trying so many things that every once in a while I'm bound to hit something that's right. So, and it's worked for me. It's not necessarily the most fun way to go about it, but it does work. So, let's talk about shipping. This is something that.
Can I ask a question of Joel just real quick?
Please.
Go right ahead.
Joel, how many iterations of your Spartan did you have before?
So the Spartan, actually, it was a okay. So the Spartan is actually kind of funny. So it was a design idea, and it was a design idea that was made by, excuse me, Kat. It was a design idea that was made as a template, just to show how a CAM software was developed, and it was never a particular like nobody made it a product. It was just kind of like a test piece. Like there's a program, if you have a CNC controller with Mach 3, that everybody makes the first Roadrunner. Or if you have a Shapeoko CNC, you do the hello thing. So it was kind of like that. And so I took it, I redesigned it, and I said, wow, this is kind of amazing. So let me make a thing that almost exists, actually exist and work. And so, yeah, there was, oh my gosh, are you kidding me? There's like every product we do, I have a set for me, and it would still work with anybody's business. I have a set development cost, where I say, okay, I need to make this. And then not only do I need to make it, but I need to know how to make it. So then I make it in the process of that too, but that's a whole nother story. So yeah, there's lots of different tweaks and rundowns, and it gets kind of painful when you're dealing with, like a piece of walnut that's like $45, and you're like, oh, firewood. and you go on to the next piece, and more firewood, and so to answer your question, lots.
Yeah. I don't think that's unusual. I think that's very standard. And even when you have
right in the Spartan, because it's what I call a 2.5D, so it's all in its sets of planes. So but it's not 3D, as in we don't curve it as is, and but even stupid things like a tray or a beer flight or a drink tray or something that we're designing. I'll go through 10 iterations or 20 iterations while I'm drawing it out and getting everything set, and then I'll do another 10. And when the real world drum, kind of bumps in to my idea, I have to fix it because the real world always wins. You gotta make it happen. So yeah, there's every product. Doesn't matter how simple it is. And if like you're a guy that wants to sell your pens and you have a lathe, you're going to come down to figuring out how best to, after you break your 7th pen, pushing everything together, and it snaps right in half because of the way you were kind of pressing it together. You're going to figure out how to do that so you can sell those little bad boys. And it's all a learning process, and we still get better at it. So it never stops.
Yeah. Amen for that. I get a lot of that. When are you going to run out of ideas? And with new ideas and new things, and I think to myself, I've only made 70 videos so far, and I've only posted 330 about that. I said, I got thousands. We're long way off from running out of ideas. So ideas are never the problem. It's always the time.
It's the time. It's the money. It's the emotional effort you want to put into something. A lot of times I find, because right. I want to do something, and there's a point where I think, man, I just really don't want this to fail. Let me do something a little easier that I can kind of tackle. Which hits me sometimes, because then I go back and I say, well, you're a big wuss is what you are. Go get it.
Right. Yeah. I think we all have a little bit of that, I have a wife, so I don't have that problem. Her mantra is, get off your ass and get to work. So, but as far as, when it comes to, I want to mention on the creative part of things, where some people, they stumble and they have that block of creative juice or energy or whatever, especially when you're thinking about the possibility of taking something to market or starting a little side business. It's really simple. Being creative is nothing more than action. If you try something, you have to say, well, I'm going to go out to my shop today and I'm going to build this box. All right, so you build a box, and you go, well, how could I have done that better? What could I have done a little differently to build this box? And then you try it, and then if it works out, great. And if it doesn't, you think again, what can I do? So it's just a matter of motion or moving forward, and I think that is where a lot of ideas come from. It's just simply solving a problem or trying to improve something that already exists. So anyway, off the mark. Here we go. Let's talk about shipping. And I know I got a lot of guys out there who make products. I got Ragtie on board right now. I got Custom Chris who's on right now, and a few others that make these items. But shipping is always that hurdle. Shipping is a hurdle, and anybody who doesn't think it is has never had to ship 500 of one item. And I know that you, Joel, have a system for this. It's something that I'm sure you've worked out. So
her name's Maggie and Margot. And then I stay the hell out of the way.
Right. Amen for that. Yeah. Well, I don't have that fortunate. Can I borrow them for an afternoon?
Yeah. No, they're amazing. The shipping's a tough topic, because it's a giant. It is amazing that I can get a Spartan knife block to New Zealand. It is painfully expensive for me to get a Spartan knife block to New Zealand. And from my time packing it up, which is a painful process because there's time with that, and the actual carrier costs, and then the customer getting a broken item at the end. And I say all those negatives because it's still amazing that there are Spartan knife blocks that are in New Zealand, right? I think that's crazy. And they're all over the world, and it's awesome that happens. But yeah, shipping's huge for us. It's a whole little department that we spend. Oh, I don't know. We probably have about I'm going to say 2.5 to 3 man hours a day right now that has to be accounted for kind of in shipping. So I have a box guy. He takes care of me for boxes, and I've grown and made a relationship with that. And before that, we were scrounging boxes from all over the place. And I have carriers that know us by name. If you ever do a lot of shipping, your mail guy, your UPS guy is going to be, always offer them. All I can tell you is always offer them a Coke or water, whether they refuse it every time or not, because they're going to save your butt one day. And it's never the delivery guy's fault. It's always somebody else's. Because they mean too much to piss them off.
Right. Absolutely.
So, but yeah, it's a huge process, and it's really cool to see your stuff flying out. I can't tell you how excited I am when I see a box sitting on there and all of a sudden it's going to, Fresno, or it's going to Albuquerque, or it's going to Greenville, North Carolina, whatever. It's wherever it's going to.
Right.
It's exciting. You should feel like that's the end goal, because you can't see the customer when they open it up. So you got to transfer that, the shipping process.
Yeah. I have a friend, and I won't mention his name because I know he wouldn't want me to, but he's actually designs his products for shipping. I mean, that's literally how far, I design products to be shipped. I design around shipping. And I think that's something valuable. I mean, especially if you're building, wine boxes or something small, why not design the product to work with, shipping that we have available to us? And I know that a lot of, when you're doing, starting a new business, Scott, this is probably something you could help us out with. You design packaging, you design everything around that shipping to make the costs a little bit easier on you and the end user as well. So can you kind of touch on that a little bit? I know you've had some experience with that.
Yeah. It's interesting. Shipping is absolutely, especially for a manufacturer or product-based, company, a huge issue. Shipping is definitely a huge issue, and it doesn't matter. There's distribution, right? Which you could get things to Amazon, and Amazon actually ships at the last mile, or DHL will ship at the last mile. But at the end of the day, you still have to package that stuff and get it out the door, and that, yeah, it's critical. You get it right, because it's ultimately the way you actually make money, by getting product out the door. Two things. One is, most people, when they start their business, don't account enough for the cost for packaging and shipping, right? So
Amen.
They do their kind of financial modeling of the product. They'll put things like, marketing costs and stuff, but a lot of times they underestimate the packaging and shipping costs, and the actual process of packaging is alluded to. And then the second thing is that, and Izzy, it's to your point, they don't really stop and think about the design, and the design piece of shipping, and how you present your product, and how people are opening it up, and how they handle it. All of that's an important part of your user experience. At Pure Color, one of the things that we did, we actually designed, we're selling stain, right? It's liquid. But from a shipping standpoint, it's a pain in the ass to ship a little tin. And they're very, very inefficient. They, you drop them, they break, they're just not economical at the end of the day. And we look for a competitive advantage. And what we did was we actually ship our stain in a box. So we looked at like wine in a box and said, why don't we do that with stain? And that's how we ship our product. And the big advantage then is that you got like this resealable packaging. You've got something that's nice in a rectangle, a box that stacks easily. You can put it in boxes. You can put them on pallets. You know, it's all recyclable material. We actually got a design patent for stain in the box, and it was because we just stepped back and tried to think about what does it mean to actually ship, you know, stain. And I don't know why everybody ships it in a can. It seems stupid to me. But you know, but at the end of the day, it's more economical for us. You know,
it's economical for me as far as storage goes. I can tell you right now, I've got what, I don't know, 12 or 14 boxes of pure color stain, and it's stacked up nice and neat. If I tried to put that in cans in the same space, it wouldn't happen.
Right.
So
design is a really important feature, and shipping and packaging is really it's a differentiator, but it's economics as much as anything else too. I mean, it's more efficient for us, you know, from a shipping perspective to ship boxes. So,
right.
You know, that's than tin cans.
Well, sure, they make a
Can I give you a
square box. So
Can I give you an example real quick, Scott? You said design. I'll give you a real world example. We have a widget we sell on Amazon, and this particular widget sells really, really well. And it comes in at 18 inches. And you're like, well, that's not particularly big, especially when it's 4 inches wide.
Yeah, but getting a box.
Well, right. So we can fit it in an 18-inch box, 18 by 4 by 4, which is great. Amazon's oversized dimension starts at 18 inches. Well, I screwed up. I need a product that's 17.5 inches into a box that's 17.75 inches. And because of that screw up, it cost me $2.50 more per item for a 1/4 inch. And it's with no particular difference to one way. It just happens to be that's the rule. And that's of course, that's Amazon's rule. Not everybody's going to sell on Amazon. And actually, I would tell you, don't. It's brutal. There are plenty of other good places to do things. But there's lots of other things that are just like that rule. And you don't know that rule. A lot of times you don't see the puddle until you walk in the puddle. Unless you've been doing this for years, especially on the shipping side, where you're like, oh, well, that's a stupid, newbie mistake. And why would you do that? And you're like, well, I didn't know any better. And there's just little things like that catch you off guard. And all of a sudden you're like, why is this costing me so much? That's crazy.
Yep. Really good example.
I'll give you an example about not really doing enough homework on shipping. Now, for my DPT wrench, I have these plastic boxes that I buy to put them in, and there's some foam that gets cut out in them and goes in them. Well, I launched the wrench selling. I'm going to sell 300 of them, which we haven't met that goal. So here I am figuring, okay, if I only sell 100, I got to buy 100 boxes, right? Well, I got everything lined up with the boxes, with the exception of quantity. I never did, ask them if there was a minimum quantity order to get the price that I needed. And in order for me to get the price that we had negotiated, I had to buy 1,000 boxes. And if I didn't buy 1,000 boxes, let's say I only bought 100 boxes, it would cost me roughly what 500 boxes would cost me to get 100, if I was getting the price that I would get at 1,000. So I bought 1,000 damn boxes because I'll use them eventually, but because I wasn't going to pay that price for those boxes for 100 of them. So, I've got a whole lot of boxes. If anybody needs any, just let me know.
Well, Izzy, we're going to have to break for commercial. It's time to talk about your new fishing lure box design.
Right. Yeah, I'll give you guys some dimensions. Design anything that fits inside this box. No,
there you go.
No. Shogun Jimmy had a question that I'd like us all to kind of touch on, each of us, if we don't mind, if you guys don't mind. He asks, is it worth building a reputation on YouTube, or should I just start selling like on Etsy and Amazon and you know, showing your pictures on Pinterest? And that's a really good question. And I'm not sure YouTube is the great, and this is just my 2 cents, and I could be totally way off base. You guys can tell me if I'm way off base because you'll know better than I will. I don't think YouTube's necessarily the greatest marketing tool for a product. I mean, it does work and it helps to a certain point, but I'm wondering if you know, like Etsy and building a website and driving traffic there is not a more powerful way to start something, to start a product. And I don't know. What do you guys think?
Well, I'll let Joel weigh in first. I mean, I'm sure he's had much more practical experience here.
See, I was hoping that you would start with this one, because I would tell you, I don't know if I have. Okay, so there are some people that can sell stuff with themselves, like as the person that brings the product to market. You'll see examples of people that their energy, their charisma, their looks, their quality of being in a video will promote that product in a positive way. And then there's some people that can't do that, and it's a little bit natural, it's a little bit learned, and I'm not sure it's something that I would probably put a lot of time into. If you had a YouTube following and you wanted to incorporate a product into that audience, yes, absolutely. To build an audience with a product, I'm not sure is the best way of doing it, or a line of products. But I will tell you this: that exception is that video sells. Video always sells. Right. If you have look at those stupid tasty videos on Facebook where all they're doing is two hands over a clear mixing bowl, mixing up something that involves always cream cheese and breadcrumbs. I don't know what, but it does. And people just share the crap out of that. And so that's a really visually appealing thing. I'm working on a product line of really nice Lazy Susan's rotational motorized mechanized turntables for people that want to do displays, because I know the video sells. And I think in just even having a rotation of an image of the thing that you're trying to show off to the world in video form beats photos hands down. Absolutely amazingly, telling that, because you can tell a narrative at that point.
Right.
That's my answer. If you have the audience, yes. Don't build an audience because of your products. Although Instagram's really good for that. YouTube, I don't think is.
Right. I wanna do a shout out here real quick. Bill Griggs has joined us in the chat section. Bill, thank you for the advice there. Bill says yes. Build a YouTube rep and sell on Etsy. Do both, and many other things to market your brand. So Bill's saying is anything that you could possibly do to help market your brand is not a bad thing.
Right. I think that's exactly it, Izzy. There's a distinction I would make. One is how you distribute or make your product available. And then the second is how do you actually market the product? And I think, in that case, you look for the sites or the places where you want to place it. Maybe on your own website, it may be through the Etsy store, it may be on Amazon. But that's just half of the problem. That's making the product available. The next is how do you drive people to your product? How do you make them aware of it? And that's marketing. And there are lots of different forms of marketing. And YouTube is certainly one of them. And you definitely should take advantage of it. Instagram, Facebook Live. There's so many. That goes back to what's so amazing about the time that we're living in is that as a maker, you can build a business. And you can do it in your garage. You can do it in your backyard. And you can do it because you're selling throughout the world. You find people who want your product. You just need a fraction of the number of world's population to find your product. And, I think that's pretty freaking cool. That's the disruptive nature about the business that we're in right now.
Right.
But understanding, sorry, one last point, Izzy. Sure. Understanding the significance of how you market yourself, how you present yourself, how you create your brand, how you, actually, I'll, for lack of a better word, just say how you market the product, the business, your reputation, your persona, all of that matters. And that's just, that's part of business. And
sure. I would say, I agree with what Bill's saying, depending on, what atmosphere you're in as well. Now, for me, if I let's say I went back to building furniture full time, and I'm going to say this again, and a few of you have heard me say this on other shows. For me, I'm a full believer in niche marketing, especially in furniture. The internet would do me no good because I'm a wholesaler. What I would be doing is going to every rustic furniture company that sells rustic furniture, gallery, store, whatever. I would be showing them my furniture and trying to get them to put an order in, So it depends on, again, I want to go back to that. It really depends on what you want to do. If you want to make wine boxes and sell them out of the garage, the internet is wonderful. For me, it's all about, when I had the company going, I was the only person on any production level that was doing the birch bark, twig, mosaic, Adirondack style furniture. And when I shut it down, nobody's come to take my place. That market is still open. Are you guys listening? That market is still opening. Nobody in the U.S. is making production furniture with birch bark and twig mosaic patterns on it. Okay, so anybody who really wants to be in business for themselves, no, I've said that out loud. Okay, I guess it really depends, and I completely agree with what Bill says when it comes to marketing yourself. Even if you're a guy building furniture in your garage or at a shop and you want to sell to furniture stores, it still helps to have a presence. It still helps to have that there. YouTube is what I originally used YouTube for, was a way to gallery my furniture. I took a bunch of pictures, made this little. It was 2008 when I first started using YouTube for that, and it wasn't. I had no channel. I did, but it was like no subscribers. I'd simply just take pictures of all the furniture I built, and I would send that link off to furniture stores, and that was my sell point. That's how I sold the stuff. So, there, I said my piece. So, look at Izzy, all dressed up. All right, Mr. Mancrafting, we're making fun of me. Well said, Bill. Bill says, "Well said, Joel." I don't know if you guys are watching the chat at all. So
I don't have it open. I should have it open. One of these days, I'm going to figure out how to open both of them. So,
Bill, I know you're out there. Bill, are you the internet marketing guy? Is that you? Am I missing something? Am I wrong? I think he is. I think we should be listening to Bill. So, the business of internet marketing, I think, is Bill. Jimmy got a shout out. All right. Let's get back on topic here. We've got just a few minutes left.
Izzy, can I ask you a question?
Yeah.
Okay. So let's say you have a widget, right? Mm-hmm. You come up with the widget. You figure out how you're going to make the widget. Let's say that's the easy part, right? Like, because that is the easy part, right? Like you say, okay, I have this thing. Mm-hmm. It's awesome. Everybody should own 5 of them. What do you do next?
It depends on what the widget is.
Shippable item in the price range of sub $100 for general consumption. Let's say it's a kitchen. That's an easy one because everybody has a kitchen.
Well, for me, I have a set standard of things. If I have an idea or if I have a product idea, the first thing I'm going to do is, if I think it's cool and worthy, I'm going to start making some phone calls. I've spent 25 years building a network of really smart guys, a lot smarter than I am. I'm going to call them and say, hey, this is an idea I have. What do you think of it? How would you go about marketing it? How would you present it? What's your thoughts on this? So that's the first thing I'm going to do. And some people are going to go, like, Scott's one of those guys now. He's on the top of my list. He's going to be one of those guys I call. If it's about woodworking, I'm going to be calling Brian Way. I'm going to be calling a couple of pro cabinet guys that I know and asking them what they think. And, so that's the first thing. I'm going to do some discovery work. And then if it's something that is viable, I'm going to use every tool at my disposal. I'm going to use YouTube, because I've built an audience there. So I'm going to use YouTube. I'm going to use the website. I'm going to use any marketing strategy I know that I know has value to get it out there. And then I'm going to ask people that are smarter than me how to get it done. So, Joel, you'd be on the list for that kind of thing. I'd be, hey, Joel, I got this idea. So,
Good.
So that's the strategy. The strategy, when you come up with something and you want to know if it's viable, ask the customer as well. If you have this idea, like saying, hey, I want to build this thing that's going to go over a kitchen sink, and it's going to hold dish soap, and it's going to have all this stuff that is going to be really handy to have right next to the kitchen sink, go talk to the people who are going to use it. Say, hey, look, I got this idea. What do you think of this? Look, this is how it works. And get some feedback. And you don't have to go, talk to 1,000 people. Go talk to 5. Get their feedback. And some people are going to, you may think it's wonderful, and they may not. So the bottom line is, if you think it's wonderful, doesn't necessarily make it wonderful. A lot of times I have ideas that I think are really cool, but I will never show anybody them because I have a skill set that makes those things viable for me that maybe somebody else or a lot of other people wouldn't have a skill set that makes it viable. So there's no point. I mean, why would I want to do that? So Mr. William Lutz in the house. Shout out, brother. What's up? Yeah, I guess so. To answer your question, Joel, yes, I would use every marketing platform available to me: YouTube, websites, Etsy. Anybody I knew who was willing to share it, I'd ask them to share it. Yeah, I would.
Sure. Well, maybe Scott might be the best person to ask about this. And I was thinking a couple of questions. I'm asking questions now. Is he? Darn it.
Go for it. That's what we're here for.
Well, only because I have my own set of questions. Because I'm looking at these things, and I think my belief structure now is that there's a whole world out there competing for the normal stuff. I'm not going to make a paper towel holder unless it's a really awesome paper towel holder, because there are very small hands in China that are making plenty of paper towel holders that you can buy at Walmart and Target and everywhere else. And I don't think I can inspire anybody to buy my product as much as they inspire by those cheap prices. So I think there's a whole world of niche products that you can interest people that are in niche markets. And of course, the whole idea of trying to reach those people is a whole nother conversation on marketing. But I keep thinking about, do you guys get the ads on Facebook for the different T-shirts? And these T-shirt companies like T-Fury and all these things, they do these like really niche things, like it's a Doctor Who TARDIS box, but all of a sudden Calvin and Hobbes are popping out of the door. So then, like, okay, now you have your Doctor Who fans, but you also have to be a Calvin and Hobbes fan. Like there's like 17 guys in the U.S. Maybe not 17, but there's like 150 guys, and you're looking for that market. But they make a whole business like that. They make 500 of those shirts with different things popping out of different things, and so they've got an idea that there's a niche market. And Scott, do you think that's the way to go as a small startup business where you're like super specific?
So that's a really interesting question, Joel. If I'm looking at a business, at the end of the day, I really would love to have the biggest market possible, right? I mean, that's
Sure.
the ideal thing. So like the flip side of it though is you really want to create differentiation, right? You want to have something that's completely different from everybody else. So some of that might mean that you're different in a way in which it's appealing to a lot of people. Other ways, it maybe it's different and it's appealing to just a small group of people. You can make a business out of both of them, right? I mean, it's absolutely viable. It's a matter of how big that business is going to be.
I would like, my theory, Scott. I'm a big subscriber to the theory of the pink whale. you know. And for those of you who haven't heard this analogy already, if you're on a beach and you're not the sexiest guy there, and you're not the tallest guy there, or you're not the richest guy there, and you want to get noticed, you need to be the pink whale. Because if you're on a beach and there's a pink whale laying out there flopping around, I guarantee you, everybody is going to be watching. So that's kind of when it comes to business, I kind of take that the same way. Is if you show them something different, or maybe not necessarily completely different, but something unique about something they've seen before, or change something they've seen before, you kind of stand out from the crowd a little bit. And I think that definitely helps when you're marketing, or when you're trying to get people's attention to buy something. And I like yourself, Scott, I'm always looking for that largest audience. You know, I do like. It's unique that Joel mentioned that, because I've seen the T-shirt ads on Facebook. I purchased. You know, the original T-shirt right here. This is it. I saw this T-shirt on Facebook eons ago, and I bought one. I was like, oh shit, that's kind of funny. Click, you know, sucker. So I bought it, but then I moved to Amazon, and then I bought a crap load of funny T-shirts from them. But yeah, it's a really interesting. I don't feel qualified to really take that question, and answer it. I don't know. It's unique.
I think that's the whole thing is, there's lots of different ways to build a business. At the end of the day, there is no frickin' formula, really. That's the beauty of entrepreneurship, is that it's not driven by rules. That is why it appeals to so many people that are looking to do things different. They don't want to play by the same rules. And the way you market your product, the way you design your product, the way you distribute your product, the way you brand your product, all of that is open for. There are some guidelines, but at the end of the day, there are no real rules to success in entrepreneurship. There's lots of different paths, and that can include the size of the market you go after, whether you're doing a niche product or whether you're doing a general audience product. To me, that's one of the most appealing parts about entrepreneurship.
Do you think there's a trend right now? Do you think there's a trend towards like handmade items and small companies?
The craft trend, I'd call it. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And it's craftsmanship that's valued, because it's now seen as, and it's no different than an organic farmer, right? A local producing farmer. It's the same mindset. It's that product has got more care, more attention, more love behind it at the end of the day. And
sure.
people, I think there's a general movement to say, I don't want the cheapest frickin' Walmart version of this. If I'm going to get a nice piece of whatever it is, whether it's a piece of furniture or whether it's a utility for holding my knives, I want to be inspired by something that, it's my neighbor doesn't have the same frickin' thing, So Joel, the paper towel holder is a great example, by the way. I bet you could build a business around having, a distinguished set of paper towel holders. I'm sure somebody has. That's the beauty of it. There probably is somebody out there.
The better paper towel holder, the more artistic paper towel holder, the more utilitarian. How do you build that? If you had a paper towel, if you had a really big thing for paper towels, where do you hit it next, Scott? What do you do?
I'm not claiming to be the leader of the paper towel. Paper towel
that's, you know what? For me, I would go to Saltbox Farms. I would go to every crafty store in my area and start, trying to sell them. I like the wholesale world because I don't have to deal with the customer. I'm very comfortable not dealing with the customer. I like that world, and I would much rather be building 70 of them and taking it to the place, that's going to buy them all for me at one time than I would be trying to sell them one at a time. Now, I'm doing some of the one at a time stuff now, but I've set that up so I'm as hands-free as I possibly can be.
So Izzy, that goes back to understanding distribution, right? Mm-hmm. You're selling wholesale distribution versus, direct to the consumer via an Etsy or an Amazon type of service.
Right. And that could still be a small business. I want to make that very clear,
Absolutely.
You know, it doesn't have to be something huge. You can still make decent money doing wholesale work as long as you can, you know, it comes down to finding that product that you can build within a reasonable amount of time and get a reasonable return on. You know, and if, for instance, in my case, I can build a sofa table in a day, an Adirondack style birch bark twig mosaic sofa table in a day, and I can sell that for $1,000 with $200 worth of materials into it. That's an $800 day. It's not a bad day. Now, if I have 5 guys doing the same thing, all of a sudden I've got a very viable business. So, you know, those are the kind of way, that's the way I think. And that's the way I tend to approach businesses. If I'm going to do something, I'm going to frickin' do it. I'm not going to, you know, pansy, you know, I'm not going to tiptoe around the tulips. I'm just going to hammer it hard. And I have fallen hard because of that attitude, but I've also had some great successes. So, guys, we're running long. You know, I want to. There's a unique thing happening here with the show, and I'm not sure that I can articulate it properly. But there's a lot of powerful experience just sitting here with the three of us, and you know, and a lot of guys in the chat room right now too. Just got a veritable who's who of guys that are out there really cutting, you know, doing stuff and moving forward and making businesses. And I want to say thank you for you guys spending your time with us this evening, everybody out there that's watching tonight, and for being part of the conversation over in the chat room. And definitely a big thanks to Scott for his valuable time. Again, I try not to embarrass people too much, but you know, Scott's got a lot of very good information, a lot of real powerful things that that can be very helpful for us as we move forward with the show. So I'm sure we're going to see Scott on again, and Joel as well. I really appreciate your time, guys. I know how hard it is, especially when you're out there pounding the pavement and making these businesses that you guys run work every day. I just can't tell you how much we appreciate your time. So thank you very much for being here, guys. I would hope that you guys will come back again and hang out with us and answer more crazy questions and have more great conversations.
Be honored. Absolutely. Thanks very much.
Yes, my pleasure. Really, it's a lot of fun.
All right, guys. Thank you so much. Everyone, thank you for coming tonight. We are back on our regular schedule every Saturday night and 9 o'clock. And come next weekend, we've got a big announcement for everybody, so don't miss out. You're not going to want to miss next weekend. It's going to be a fun one. Guess who's going to be here? Joel and Scott, I hope, if Scott can be here.
I think I could probably. I have to check my calendar. Is he?
So this is all right. This is the first week we're going to do a repetitive crew, but we've got some fun stuff coming up and an announcement for you guys, and we'll be talking to you all real soon. Thanks a lot, guys. Thanks for coming tonight.
Thanks, guys.
Cheers.